Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. 5090, Chapter 8, Video 1, O-Level Biology. This is the new syllabus for 2023. Now, looking at the first point of the syllabus, it says list the principal sources and dietary importance. So, source and dietary importance. Dietary importance of what? Source and dietary importance of carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, vitamin C and D, calcium and iron, fiber, water. So you have to know the sources and the importance of these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different headings. Carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, vitamin C and D, calcium and iron, fiber and water. Now coming to the first substance that we're talking about is carbohydrates. Now when you look at carbohydrates, what are they? Basically you found them in starch and you found them in sugar. So the good quality carbohydrates are of course sweet potato, oatmeal, beans, whole wheat pasta and cereal. And then fruit, quinoa, lentil, squash as a type of like a melon, brown or wild rice, and whole grain bread. So basically bread, roti, rice, sugars will be fruits and jams and cakes and pastries, anything made of wheat. Now, what are carbohydrates? In biochemistry, carbohydrates is synonymous of saccharide. The word saccharide comes from the Greek word saccharon, meaning sugar. The term carbohydrate often means any food that is particularly rich in the complex carbohydrate starch, such as cereals, bread, pasta, or simple carbohydrates such as sugar found in candy, jams, and desserts. Carbohydrate is composed of carbon and water. For every carbon, there is one water molecule or two hydrogen atoms and one oxygen atom. Importance of carbohydrates. Provides energy for the body. Meal carbs are broken down to sugars absorbed into the bloodstream. Blood sugar, blood glucose supplies energy to the muscles and tissues. Supplies energy to the brain. In fact, the brain can only use glucose. That's why I always tell you all to have a bar of chocolate before you go in for your exams. Prevents the breakdown of proteins for energy so that the proteins are not used up, the muscle protein and the other proteins of the body. Fat metabolism. The extra energy is stored as fat. If diet is less in carbohydrates, fat metabolism cannot function normally. Forms ketones and used as energy. Too many ketones in the blood causes ketosis, makes the blood acidic, hinders normal body processes. Symptoms are headache, dry mouth, and fruity smell to their breath. That's a different thing, but it's just a little information I wanted to give you all. Then foods rich in proteins. You can pause the video here. Of course, there are some which are meat, so turkey, eggs, fish, nuts, whole eggs, and then the ones which are without meatless proteins, which are peanut butter, almonds, pumpkin seeds, cheese, Greek yogurt, chia seeds, oats, flax seeds, cottage cheese. Now the functions of proteins. Many proteins are enzymes that catalyze biochemical reactions and are vital to metabolism. Proteins are used as transport molecules like hemoglobin transports oxygen. They are used for storage molecules. Iron is stored in the liver as a complex with a protein ferritin. They are used in movement. Proteins are the major components of muscles. They are needed for mechanical support. Skin and bone contain collagen, a fibrous protein, and they mediate cell response. Rhodopsin is a protein in the eye which is used for vision. Then foods rich in fats. We have animal fats like butter, cream, and lard. The fat which is in the meat, the layer of fat which is with the meat, which accompanies the meat, and then plant fats, which are oils, corn oil, olive oil, peanut butter, almond oil. All these are different oils which are plant-based, and some, of course, are animal-based. Now, functions of fats and oils. They carrier for the fat-soluble vitamins A, D, and K. Concentrated source of energy, 9 calories per gram. They're very energy dense. Adds flavor in the food, satisfies hunger as it remains in the stomach for a longer time, protects internal organs like the heart and the kidney from injury, insulates the body from shock and temperature changes. Nutritional needs for fat are 1 tablespoon per day. Of course, the cell membrane is a phospholipid bilayer. So in order, we also need it for many add new cells. So you need new cell membranes. Then vitamin C. Now vitamin C and D is only in your syllabus. Vitamin C is present in citrus fruit, oranges, lemons, grapefruit. They're required for healthy gums. They're required for the immune system when you have some disease like you have flu or you have COVID. Well, people will say take vitamin C because it helps the immune system and you will recover quickly. Vitamin D is a very important vitamin. It's a fat-soluble vitamin. It's present in milk and cheese, all dairy products. And it is required for the absorption and deposition of calcium. So in order for it to be absorbed, like you drink milk, milk has calcium and vitamin D actually. So in the presence of vitamin D, calcium will be absorbed and will enter the bloodstream and then will be taken to the different cells of the body where it's used. So for the absorption and the deposition of calcium, so that calcium is deposited as calcium phosphate in the bones and in the teeth, especially when the fetus is developing. So vitamin C and vitamin D. Then the next two mineral salts are calcium and iron. Now calcium is present in milk and dairy products and they're required for strong bones and teeth. You see, the calcium that is deposited in the bones and teeth actually makes them strong and hard, and that is why teeth just don't break off very easily. Then the iron is present in red meat and liver which we call kaleji in Urdu, and it is needed for the hemoglobin molecule, which is the hemoglobin transports oxygen and is present inside the red blood cells. Now fiber, what is fiber needed for? Fiber, where is it obtained from? Any fruit or vegetables that you eat. You see, basically fruit and vegetables have mainly fruit and vegetables and whole meal breads and brown breads will all have the cellulose in it, and the cellulose and the lignin cannot be digested, so that is going to add bulk to the feces and it's going to prevent constipation. Constipation is the inability to pass any feces. You see, feces can only be formed if you drink Pepsi all day. Well, no feces will be formed. Or if you just drink water all day, well, no feces will be formed, because even if you eat bread, if you eat white bread, there will be no feces, because there is all the starch is digested and it will be absorbed into the system. So white bread is not very good for you. Everybody should take brown bread. So fruits and vegetables have got cellulose. Now we don't have the enzyme cellulase, so that is not going to be digested. So that is going to be passed out in the feces. So I said adds bulk to the feces and then prevents constipation and also prevents colon cancer. Now coming to the last point, which is water. So where do we get water? We get water in food. If we have an apple, it's 70% water. If we have a drink, of course, if you have lemon juice or orange juice or mango juice, well, it's all got water in it. Then the third is the source is metabolic water. When respiration, aerobic respiration takes place in your body cells, in every cell of your body. So glucose and oxygen combine to give you carbon dioxide and water. This is a gain of water. And there's some animals like desert rats, they don't drink any water. They get all their water from this chemical reaction in their body. Now, what are the uses of water? Number one, plasma is all water. Tissue fluid, urine, feces, all have water in it. Exhaled air contains water vapors. All enzyme reactions take place in a watery medium. Transport of hormones in the plasma is also a watery medium in which they are transported. Then the tear fluid, which lubricates your eyes. If you do not produce enough tear fluids, you get dry eyes, and that's a big issue, because you have to then use natural tears to keep your eyes moist, and the person can become very uncomfortable with the dry eyes. It looks as if you've got sand in your eyes. Now the three diseases which are in your course: number one, scurvy; number two, rickets; and number three, anemia. Scurvy is a disease which is due to the lack of vitamin C in your diet. So if you're not eating enough oranges and if you don't have enough citrus fruit in your diet, well, you're going to suffer from vitamin C deficiency, which is called scurvy. Then the other second disease is rickets, which is only found in infants. Infants means little kids. And it is due to the lack of calcium and lack of vitamin D. Anemia is a disease in which there is lack of iron in your diet. If you don't have enough iron in your diet, some people who are vegetarians don't eat enough meat. So no meat, no liver, no red meat in your diet, then of course you're going to have anemia, which is a lack of iron. Now the signs and symptoms of the disease is scurvy, there's bleeding gums, there's delayed wound healing. Then in rickets there's soft bones and bowed legs and pigeon chest. All these are in infants, not in older people. Please remember, these will be problems which will be seen in the little children, infants. In anemia, there's because the anemia, the iron is needed for the hemoglobin molecule. Please do not say for the red blood cell. So it's needed for the hemoglobin molecule. So less hemoglobin, less oxygen carrying capacity. So the person will be easily getting tired. So they'll have a pale skin color and they will be easily tired and they'll be breathless because they don't have enough oxygen reaching the body cells. Now coming to a balanced diet. Now there are 7 items in a balanced diet. Number 1, carbohydrates, fats and proteins. These of course needed to be digested and absorbed. The other 3 are vitamins, mineral salts and water. Now these are only going to be absorbed. They do not need to be digested. Like if you've had orange juice, well, vitamin C is just going to be absorbed. It's not going to be digested. If you had milk, it contains calcium and vitamin D. That's only going to be absorbed. Water is only going to be absorbed. It's not digested. Then the fiber that you eat, the cellulose, if you had an apple, you're having cellulose. If you had a banana, you're having cellulose. That is not digested and not absorbed. So it will just enter the feces and will be passed out in egestion. Now coming to part number 8.2, human digestive system. Identify the main regions of the digestive system: mouth, salivary gland, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, and the large intestine, pancreas, liver, gallbladder. Then explain why most foods must be digested before they can be absorbed. Then describe physical digestion, then describe chemical digestion. Then state that physical digestion increases the surface area of food for the action of enzymes. Then identify the types of human teeth: incisors, canine, premolars and molars. Describe the structure of the human teeth and describe the function of the types of human teeth in physical digestion of food. I think that's all what we can handle up to in this video 1 to 8. Now identifying the main digestive organs in the digestive system. First of all, you've got to know the 3 pairs of salivary glands. One is the parotid gland, the sublingual gland and the submandibular gland. Well, of course you don't have to know the names of it, but you have to know the positions of it. Then you got to know the tongue in the mouth, and then we come on to the esophagus which is basically the gullet which allows the food to, when you've chewed it, when you've chewed the food and now it's a bolus, now it's going to enter the esophagus, then it's going to enter the stomach, and then from the stomach it's going to enter the duodenum, and then from the duodenum is going to enter the small intestine, which is made up of ileum. Duodenum is the first part, and then we've got the ileum, which is the second part of it. So the main part is the ileum and duodenum and the ileum. And then we have the colon. Now the colon here is given in 2 ways. One is this colon, ascending colon, then the transverse colon and the descending colon. But that's not important. You just have to know colon or large intestine. And then of course we have the rectum, where the feces are stored, and the anus, which is the part where the anal sphincter is going to relax when the feces are passed out. Then another important is the liver, and then the gallbladder, and then what we have to know is the pancreas. I mean, it's not a very nice diagram showing the pancreas and the pancreatic duct opening in the duodenum. Another diagram showing this a little better. You can of course Google it, a number of images, and you must know it very well how to label it. You must be able to label liver, stomach, pancreas, gallbladder, duodenum, then the colon, which is of course you don't have to know the ascending and all that. You just have to know colon, which is the large intestine, and then the rectum and the anal canal, and the ileum, which is the major part of the small intestine. So the small intestine is made up of duodenum and ileum, and the large intestine is just called the colon. So that is enough for you all to really know that. Rectum is where the feces are stored. Now basically the functions of all these very simple. Salivary gland, saliva moistens and lubricates the food. Amylase digests polysaccharides. Esophagus transports food. Stomach stores and churns the food. Pepsin digests proteins. HCl activates enzyme, breaks up food, kills all the germs. We don't say germs, we say pathogens or bacteria. Mucus protects the stomach wall, and there's very little absorption in the stomach. Then the pancreas, hormone regulate blood glucose, bicarbonate in it neutralize the stomach acid, trypsin and chymotrypsin digest the proteins, amylase digest the polysaccharides, and lipase digest the lipids. Large intestine reabsorbs some water and ions, forms and stores the feces. Rectum stores and expels the feces. Anus opening for the elimination of the feces. Small intestine completes digestion. Mucus protects the gut wall, absorbs nutrients, most water, digestion of proteins, digestion of sugars, and digestion of polysaccharides. Gallbladder stores and concentrates the bile. Please remember the bile is made by the liver. So the liver breaks down and builds up many biological molecules, stores vitamins and iron, destroys old blood cells, destroys poisons and bile acids. Bile aids in digestion. So basically the liver cells make the bile. Then the pharynx is where it's swallowed. Mouth breaks up the food particle, assists in producing spoken language. First of all, let's come to the different types of teeth. The most important one are the incisors, which are right in front. You can see these one color that you have, 4 in front. Then you have the canines, which is this one here and this one here. So one on either side. And then we have the premolars. So the premolars are these ones, which you can see on both sides. So 2 of them. And then of course we have the molars. And the molars are these ones which have been given very nice color. And you can see these are the molars. So you have to know the position of this. You have to know the names of these. Another diagram showing you these again, just do a quick revision of it, recap of it, incisors, canine, premolars and molars. So premolars before preschool, before pre-partition. Then you can see the different shapes of them. Incisors are more flat because they're for biting, and the canines are also for biting. The premolars and molars are basically for grinding and crushing. Please do not say chewing, because you can chew a gum all day and still it would not break it up into pieces. So chewing is not allowed. Now as you can see here, the position, either side, description, the incisors are in the front and they're chisel shaped and they're biting pieces of food. Similarly here, these are also for biting, so similar function as that. Then premolars and molars, they're basically tearing and grinding, and please do not use the word chewing. Grinding and crushing would be a better word to use. Then we come to the parts of the detailed structure of a tooth. So basically it's made of the crown, which we can see when you're smiling. We can see the crown of the tooth. And the part which is inside the jaw bone is called the root. The most outer part, which is non-living, is enamel, and it's the hardest part of the body. You can see the gum which is surrounding it. Then dentine. And then there's the pulp cavity or the pulp chamber. And then you have inside it, you've got the arteries and nerves inside it. And so pulp cavity, enamel, dentine, pulp cavity, word crown, root, gum. These are the labelings that you've got to know. Another very nice diagram, as you can see, incisors are canine and premolars and molars have been labeled, and then you can see a cross section of the tooth. And what we have to understand is the part which is important is enamel, which is the outermost part, which is non-living. Then the dentine, then the pulp cavity, and then there are nerves and blood vessels in the pulp cavity. The part which is above which you can see is the crown, and then the very short part which is called the neck, and then this is called the root of which is inside. Of course, the root is this part which is inside the jaw bone. This is the jaw bone that you are seeing here. And that is why it's very firmly fixed in it. That's why when a dentist has to actually extract a tooth, it is quite a difficult chore, because he has to first dislodge it and then he has to pull this tooth out, which is requires quite a lot of effort and strength. Now coming to this point of the syllabus where it says explain why most foods must be digested. Why does it say most foods? You see, if you're having orange juice, well, that doesn't need to be digested because it contains vitamin C. If you're having milk, well, then in milk there's calcium and vitamin D, which does not need to be digested. But we're not having that with most of our food. If you're having a pizza, we've got the dough, which is made up of flour, and the flour is starch. Starch needs to be digested. If you're having biryani, where you're having chicken and rice, well, chicken is a protein that needs to be digested to amino acids, and the rice contains starch that needs to be digested to glucose before it can be absorbed into the blood. Similarly, if you are eating a meal of roast potatoes and roast chicken, well, potatoes is starch and chicken is protein. Well, nothing can enter the blood unless it is digested. So why most foods must be digested? Because basically the bulk of our food is made up of carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. Now, the differences between physical digestion and chemical digestion. Well, the teeth basically are breaking up the food into smaller pieces, so that's physical digestion. But the amylase in the mouth is chemical digestion because it's converting starch to maltose. So there are two different categories of digestion. One is physical and one is chemical. Physical means just breaking up something into smaller pieces, like, we have crushed ice. So breaking food into smaller pieces, no chemical digestion. Chemical digestion is when we use an enzyme. Basically, an enzyme is needed to do chemical digestion. Enzymes will break down the starch into maltose and then maltose into glucose, and this glucose can now enter the bloodstream. Similarly, proteins will be digested to peptides and then peptides to amino acids, and the glucose and the amino acids now are soluble and these can enter the blood. Now, another point in your syllabus is that how physical digestion increases the surface area for the enzymes to quickly digest the food. You see, this is a large particle. Now, if physically it is broken down into smaller particles, this large particle is broken down into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 smaller particles. Now, the enzyme will work as it is on it. This enzyme is going to work on it. But now it has more surface area for the enzymes to quickly digest the food. First, it had initially the surface area was only this part. Now the surface area is more. There's this surface area, there's 6 small particles. So now the surface area is increased. Now the enzymes can work very quickly. And the enzyme, it makes it easier for the enzymes to very efficiently and quickly digest the food so that it's all absorbed in the small intestine. All the food is digested and absorbed in the small intestine. In this video, we have completed 8.1 and we have completed 8.1, 1 to 8 have been completed, and the rest will continue in the next video. Thank you for watching and thank you for subscribing. Thank you very much and all the best for you in your November exams.